Have you ever watched a movie and thought to yourself, I know how this movie could have been done 10 times better? It's a rare yet distinct feeling to have within the modern day theatrical landscape. And when it happens, it is nothing short of noticeable. I know for myself personally, there have been a fair few times where I've been watching a movie set up in first act and sort of said to myself, okay, I see how this movie is laying the groundwork for the rest of its execution, and I think I know where this film is headed. And when a film is able to explore its setup in a nuanced way, it can be more than resonant and satisfying for audience members looking for that thematic closure. Yet sometimes the reverse of this can happen. You can be sitting there watching a movie thinking you know where a film is headed to achieve that resonant payoff, only to find the movie itself has other plans entirely. To describe this specific feeling, I compare it almost to a sense of foreboding or dread, although let's be real, it is nothing as drastic as this emotion is remotely close to. It's the feeling of knowing deep down that a movie is headed in a direction that you know will be hard to pull itself out of, and the feeling of wanting to help the film itself but knowing you're powerless as an audience member to do anything. It's almost like watching a slow motion train crash in a sense. And this is precisely the feeling I had when watching the new animated film Charlie the Wonderdog, which hit theaters this past weekend. Now, I'm going to address it up front since I'm sure there's a fair few viewers of this video out there scratching their heads or remarking that they've never heard of this movie. Yes, there is in fact a new animated movie out now in theaters that stars Owen Wilson as a superhero dog, and it has gotten zero marketing, which is baffling. Hailing from an animation studio titled Icon Creative Studio, which is an independently owned CG and post-production agency based in Vancouver, Canada, the film was released in theaters by distributor Viva Kids to little fanfare. In fact, I personally happened upon this film on a whim entirely. I didn't even know my local theater was showing this film until I scrolled through showtimes by happenstance a few days ago and stumbled upon limited showtimes allocated for this specific film. Something about it intrigued me, whether it was Owen Wilson's involvement, the surprisingly artistic and motivated art style conveyed in the poster and key art, or even the fact that I just had surprisingly never heard of it before. Discovering hidden cinematic gems and surprises is something that I love to partake in. And there have been a fair few times where I've stumbled upon a smaller release at my local theater, sought it out, and left genuinely surprised and stunned at what I received in the end. With this in mind, I made the conscious decision that I was indeed going to check out Charlie the Wonderdog, both to satiate my own curiosity while also providing a creative voice and outlet for a film that otherwise seems to have been buried in the mainstream box office sphere. Going into this film in particular, I did not entirely know what exactly to expect. I purposefully did not consult any trailers or marketing materials for the film, although looking for them post-viewing the film, there are remarkably few out there, and I did not read up on the plot of the film itself at all. All I knew was the film starred Owen Wilson and was about a dog with superpowers. Easy premise, right? My local AMC scheduled this specific film inside one of the smallest auditoriums at my multiplex, so there were only me and about like a handful of other people inside the theater watching the film. Like me, I'm sure these people had stumbled upon the film quite by accident, were also seeking it out to see whether it was worth the time or not. And on this level, there was genuinely something exciting about walking into a film not knowing anything about it, and preparing to experience it alongside like-minded cinema goers for the first time. With this mindset, I settled in for Charlie the Wonderdog, and wondered what product I would get from a title that otherwise had little to no fanfare attached to it. And to say I finished the film anything other than completely torn is an understatement. Although let me make it clear, Charlie the Wonderdog is nowhere near a bad movie. Rather, it's a complicated end product that flirts with equal measure into quite passable yet simultaneously lackluster territory with ease, holding an abundance of artistic merit and value while just as easily squandering it in the name of mindless entertainment value. It's a film I've genuinely sat with and mulled over for hours since viewing it, which is an insane statement to say about a film about a superhero dog voiced by Owen Wilson. But there was just something so off about this film where I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Yet it's through this careful contemplation that I finally arrived at a consensus for Charlie the Wonderdog that perfectly encapsulates its strengths yet also its hindrances at the same time. And this is precisely that Charlie the Wonderdog is a whimsical film that showcases an abundance of promise and motivated nuance, yet unfortunately falls in execution that doesn't exactly hit the mark in every single moment. Charlie the Wonderdog follows the story of Danny, a young boy living in suburbia with his lovable golden retriever Charlie. Over a lifetime together, the duo is inseparable, playing from day to day and pretending to escape into alternate worlds in their playtime. However, Danny begins to notice one day that time itself is taking a toll on Charlie, who begins to show signs of aging and slowing down. However, both Danny and Charlie's lives are changed when one night, a mysterious green light beams Charlie up into a spaceship, where his life is changed for good. Returning back to Earth, the duo is shocked to find that Charlie boasts an incredible new set of skills, including super strength, speed, and the ability to speak English. Coining the term Wonderdog after their roleplay games from their youth, youth, Charlie transforms into a superhero, saving the town from disaster and understanding what it means to be a real hero in the process. To begin this review, I do want to mention that it is a genuine travesty that a film as artistic as this is being squandered into the mainstream studio marketing sphere. Whether due to a lack in interest in promotional messaging for this title or some other unknown reason, it seems that the world itself is not aware of the film or its existence. And I find this genuinely heartbreaking in a sense, especially for an animated film such as this one. If there is something to be said for this movie, it's that the animation and artistry on display is genuinely captivating. Within the animation industry alone, there have been so many discussions recently about the blending of art styles, and how most major studios are now relying on the simplistic stock Cal art style to tell their stories instead of branching out and doing their own thing. Yet the reason I genuinely respect Charlie the Wonderdog from an artistic standpoint is because it's clearly trying to do its own thing from a visual and stylistic standpoint. The character designs are expressive both in terms of human and canine characters, and the way the animation conveys so many intricate emotional details with so little is truly and undeniably impressive. It's clear that so many talented artists and animators worked on every single second of this film, and it seems unfair that the team behind this is not able to get their proper recognition due to lackluster marketing for the release of the film itself. Yet beyond just this context, I actually did find myself appreciating portions of Charlie the Wonderdog for a multitude of reasons. I think the setup of the film itself seems ripe for an exploration that feels so much more nuanced than what audiences get in the material itself. As the film started, I actually found myself loving it slowly but surely. The world building felt so comic booky and cartoonish, capturing a fun over-the-top flair but retaining a grounded nature that never let it feel too outlandish at the same time, and even the core setup of the main characters and their emotional connection felt earned and necessary within the context of the story as well. There's something about the premise of a beloved family pet who is aging, who gains superpowers and spends the final years of his life saving people with his owner, that feels so heartfelt and poignant at the same time. The film broaches surprisingly emotional territory within the time jump sequence in the beginning of the film, where we watch Danny and Charlie's relationship throughout the bounds of time, and begin to understand their dynamic and nature with each other. I'm sure many pet owners out there can relate to the feeling of unabashed love we have for these animals, yet also the bittersweet rumination on how our time with these companions is limited, and we must make the most of the time we have with them. And on that level, there is something so affecting about watching a film where an aging dog is given the chance to become youthful again, finding a purpose in saving the people around him and changing his world for the better, that feels so profound and ultimately moving in a sense. And this is where I started to think that Charlie the Wonderdog was doing something more different from what it was actually appearing to be. Alas, it seems that Charlie the Wonderdog is a film that is setting up far more nuanced and capable execution down the line, but this is unfortunately far from the truth and the most disappointing element of this entire film. This movie sets up a far better movie than what audiences actually get. As I mentioned within the first portion of this review, I unfortunately had the distinct feeling during my viewing of Charlie the Wonderdog, where I knew how a far better movie could be broached with the material as the runtime progressed. And I began to realize that the movie I was going to get was far from the great execution it needed to really work. You see, it is clear that there is a great film buried underneath the bulk of Charlie the Wonderdog's runtime. The film starts off with a poignant and emotional rumination on the core concepts of heroism, and about being there for the people who need us the most, and about how this makes us everyday heroes in and of ourselves. It's hard not to feel enthralled into the vibrant state and viewpoint of the material here, and the rousing story of rising to the challenge and taking opportunities as they arrive. It's also hard not to love the material when you have a completely earnest Owen Wilson behind the lovable golden retriever, and the film is clearly bursting with imagination in so many moments. And the final act of the film manages to stick the landing an emotionally satisfying and simultaneously bittersweet conclusion, bringing back these key ideas and prevalent themes with intense focus and flourish. And this is why I so desperately wish the rest of Charlie the Wonderdog was as brilliant as its setup and conclusion, because I was entirely convinced to a point that this film stuck the landing. Yet, as the rest of the film played out before me, I received a weird amalgamation of an end product that felt tonally discordant and jarring from anything the filmmakers had conveyed up to that point. It's truly the middle portion of the film that tanks the product completely here, turning this good-natured and heartfelt romp into a stock and derivative flick that often feels more superficial than substantial. With enough reworks and reimaginings in the specific section of the film, I truly believe that Charlie the Wonderdog as a movie could have soared to new heights completely, capturing a facet of animated storytelling that remained grounded yet true. Yet unfortunately, this is not what occurs within the film. The middle act of this film almost seems intent on turning this film into a Paw Patrol-like episode, with over-the-top antics and storytelling devices that scream mindless entertainment value over what the film had set up within its preceding portion. There are so many elements here that just feel discordant within the rest of the film up to that point, and don't exactly pass muster within the grand scheme of things. For example, the film introduces an evil cat villain named Putty, who devises an evil plan to replace humanity with an involved and intelligent form of felines to take over the world. In an interesting twist, the film also gives Putty superpowers from also getting abducted simultaneously with Charlie earlier on in the film, and in concept this idea seems fun and interesting enough to work within the confines of the specific story, but it's really everything about the execution of such a character and the idea itself that just doesn't work here. The core characterization of Putty switches on a whim, meaning audiences never understand or contextualize his motive in any prevalent way outside of a superficial lens. His presence in the story itself feels understated, as if the film almost takes a side quest to fulfill some other purpose before returning back to the central plotline yet again. And this is not the only time this happens in the film either, as the movie also introduces an evil politician character in the form of the president, an off-kilter individual who wants to use Charlie to publicize her own political campaign, and yeah, on paper this idea seems like it could work. An exploration into the merits and values of how people in power often weaponize anything seen as intrinsically good for the sake of their own perception, in a kids movie? Heck yeah! However, this character is treated as the butt of a joke almost, as if the film wants to convey the character in a way that feels over the top, distasteful, and above all superficial. Nothing dramatically complex or motivated ever arises out of this inclusion, which makes me question its inherent inclusion in the story from the get-go. And the film also, to an extent, begins to explore ideas and topics within the section of the film in relation to politics and the evils of artificial intelligence, which seems like it could be a good broaching point of conversation in this project to explore the concept in a way that younger audiences can understand, yet outside of a few select moments, this is skimmed over more than easily. And these individual qualities build up to paint the picture of how Charlie the Wonderdog lands in such underwhelming territory. The weirdest thing about this film is how it feels that the middle portion of the film was just replaced with another movie entirely. This section clashes so drastically with the opening act and conclusion, delivering a heart to the story that feels overtly discordant and lackluster in every sense of the word. And ultimately, that's the real problem with the film itself. Charlie the Wonderdog surely has its moments, and when they hit incredibly well. The emotional poignancy and impact of moments cannot be denied, and with the right impact and execution, the overall project could have benefited greatly from their inclusion. Yet that's what's so depressing about a film like this. Charlie the Wonderdog showcases so much promise, yet ultimately sacrifices his grounded emotional core in favor of something appealing and safe in every sense of the word. The moments and emotional highs that the film reaches are ultimately so profound and moving in impact, which is why it's equally disappointing and frustrating when the film abruptly pivots away from the style in favor of something more superficial and stock in terms of thematic impact. While Charlie the Wonderdog might not be the film it needs to be in order to properly stick the landing overall, this is not to say that the film itself is without merit or charm. As mentioned, Wilson delivers such a rousing, empathetic voice performance here as the titular canine, managing to elevate the material with comedic sensibility, yet also a heartfelt touch in moments throughout. The animation is vibrant and layered with intriguing setting and character design that paints such an expressive world, and as mentioned repeatedly, the film truly has the makings of something special in so many moments throughout. Alas, however, Charlie the Wonderdog ultimately ends up feeling like a film that is buried underneath itself, grasping for error at any cost necessary, yet unable to reach any meaningful fruition. As it stands for any audience members going to check out this film, the movie will be an innocent, albeit derivative, children's movie full of quirky humor and over-the-top antics. Yet it's truly noticeable in moments where Charlie the Wonderdog attempts to become something more than this, only to be buried underneath the rest of the material in the process. What starts out feeling like a Pixar movie quickly becomes a Netflix original, and this is truly the saddest thing about this movie. That's why I'm giving Charlie the Wonderdog a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this review on my channel. If you're new around here and you like the content you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and turn on push notifications. Also, leave comment suggestions down below for future video, essay, and review topics. With that being said, until next time, this is Mitchell signing off. Peace out.